I'm Marissa Stoddard, and this is my final presentation video. I really liked the folder that we made for our final, and I'm really excited to be able to take it with me as I teach. And so I'm just going to show you that today and kind of talk a little bit about the things I've learned and the things that I have come to understand about my philosophy and management styles. So just to start off, our little cover of it has these quotes on it so this is from my personal philosophy paper, and I feel like this kind of encompasses my philosophy, so I'm going to read these really fast. The first one says, I believe that giving students choice helps them to learn the social skill of decision making. Next, communication about positive expectations to my students will be critical for them as they learn what to do instead of simply what not to do. And third, my students' good behavior must be more than just outwardly good. Their behavior must be an indication of their inward development and motivation to be good. So here's a little bit more about my philosophy. I feel like the philosopher that I relate to most is Marvin Marshall. He's technically a high control teacher, but I feel like he's a little bit more medium high than high control. He has some ideas that kind of line up with mine, like especially giving students choice and things like that. But I've just listed a few others here that are just like general medium control ideals, like logical consequences with cooperative discipline and reinforcing appropriate behaviors. The teacher roles and responsibilities that I've included are next. And just a couple of them that I've listed are like, I feel like the teacher has a responsibility to guide students in the choices that they make. I think that as a teacher I should be assertive but non-coercive. And then also the student roles and responsibilities are listed right below that. I think that students should be able to listen to suggestions and be open to alternative options. They have a responsibility to make choices and kind of learn how to self-correct. And then I have a little statement below that as well, that teachers and students should work together in cooperation. Next, I have my democratic classroom little display. It's kind of hard to open it up, but it's just this cute little foldable. And so I've got 6 little tabs here. The first one, just my philosophy statement, I've kind of already talked about as far as just like my philosophy in general. But my philosophy statement when it comes to a democratic classroom is that I think that students should be able to be taught through interaction, which helps them to develop important life skills. That's just in this first one. You can't see it because it's really small, but I promise it's there. All of these just have lots of writing on them. Anyway, and then next I've got class jobs, and so just a couple that I've listed are the absent student helper and the pencil sharpener. So if a student is absent, someone would be assigned to like specifically write a note to that student, or like do something with like a cute classroom poster to show that student that they're loved and they were missed, or something like that. And then a pencil sharpener, just kind of like what we talked about in class, someone would be specifically assigned in the morning to sharpen a bunch of pencils, keep them in a sharpen jar or can or something like that, so that students always have available pencils in the morning. And then the next tab I have listed is student leadership. So just a couple of opportunities for students to exercise leadership would be like a morning meeting leader, and then also like something that I thought was a really good idea is to have students assigned to like a specific attribute or characteristic that they display throughout the week. So like this week so and so is the student peacemaker, or the like class friend or class cleanup helper or something like that, where they have a specific job or responsibility that they are in charge of, and they can kind of lead through example to show the other class how to do that. And then the next tab that I had listed was student choice. So just like especially with assignments where possible, students would be able to have choice. And then specifically with that choice, I could do like a menu where students can choose different assignments from the menu that all address the same content but just in different ways. Next, I had opportunities for student voice as being something important to a democratic classroom. And so just in general, like with the class meetings, the class meetings and the morning meetings, students have the opportunity to exercise their voice. But in addition to that, I thought it would be a good idea to have like a jar or a box or something like that students could just place a little note in if they have like an idea or suggestion about something, or there's a concern that they feel like they need to bring up, but maybe they don't want to bring up with the whole class there or something like that. They can put that in the jar or the box, and then I can go over it and address it appropriately. And then as far as the democratic classroom, lastly, I have civility listed as something important. And so just with that, I think that it's really important. One of my favorite parts about our democratic classroom lesson was that there's a quote that talked about basically that if I show my students that I trust them, then they will also feel like they can trust me. So it goes hand in hand, it's twofold. And so I think that that's really important in a democratic classroom, that the student and the teacher are working together as well as teaching the class to work together as a whole. Next is the motivation page. So I just have all these different things listed. I first of all just listed out the self-determination theory and the 4 dimensions of motivation because I feel like those tie in really well to everything that was required to be listed after that. And then, so next I have the strategies and the rationale for them as far as motivation goes, which is required on this page. So just a few things that I had listed there. The first one, I don't know if I should hold this up. The first one that I had listed was transition. And so transition from external rewards to intrinsic motivation. And so I think that that's good. Some external rewards can be good and helpful, but I think that those should always be like faded out as much as possible and transitioned into things that motivate the students intrinsically. Because for one thing, if too much praise is given, it can seem like it's not genuine, or kids can become too dependent on like praise and teacher direction when they themselves need to learn how to like do assignments and make decisions independently as well, because those are important life skills. And then so next, as far as motivation goes, I think that it's important to keep activities engaging and interesting. So one way to do this is to make things relevant and to keep prior knowledge in mind as I'm teaching my lessons, so that students can see how it pertains to them or base it off of something that they already know about. And then, so giving students choice, once again, I am a strong advocate for giving students as much choice as possible, because that gives them satisfaction and a sense of ownership, that what they're doing is theirs, and they feel like they have a little bit more liberty to make it their own. And then I think having students work in journals is a really good idea to build motivation in writing and in other areas, because they're able to kind of get their thoughts out about whatever it is that they're thinking about, or maybe that they're bothered about, and then move on to whatever else they need to be focused on. And then lastly, I would build interest by putting them in the situation. So like imagine, like, what would you do if you were in a fire? How would you react? Next I have my interventions page. So I have my flip book glued on there, and then each of those placed in their own little categories with my bullying statement on the bottom. So as far as these go, for the mild response, I had, like, so a situation might be a child is talking in class. That was one of them that I listed here, linking to mild. So one way that you could do that, or counter that intervene with that is by simply touching the student or using nonverbal signals, something like that that's more discreet. For the moderate one, I had that the student pushes another student. So a way that you could address that concern is by changing the seat order. And then as far as a chronic behavior goes, I thought student is non-compliant to anything the teacher says to do could be seen as something that's chronic. And so I think that in a situation like that, it's good to keep the student in to talk to them, potentially contact the parents if necessary as well. So lastly, as far as the visual ones go, I have my classroom map. So you can see I have my pair partner one and then my group one. So I first of all, I place the students in pairs here because I think it's good to have a partner to kind of fall back on and always have as someone who can help. Like a struggling student, I would pair like maybe a high achieving student with a struggling student in some cases, so that they could help each other, and the high achieving student could have the opportunity to like serve and teach to also learn and grow, and the struggling student could receive help. I've got my hand-in bin right next to the teacher desk, just like how Dr. Pincock said, for conveniency. And then I've got like the hooks and everything where the lunches go on the shelves right by the door. I've got a little library center down in the corner right here. And then the fountain and everything. I've got the rug up front, and I would prefer to gather kids up front to do the rug time for instruction as often as possible, just because it gets them close and kind of creates a sense of safety. And so then I also have my management philosophy paper next, and then I have just my little original chart here, my motivations theory paper, and then my narrative for my classroom map. So, and then just a couple extra things from class as well. So that is my my management philosophy folder, and I'm super excited to use it. Thank you.